Well, when Yeshua was in the land, you could say the same thing about Abraham. Because Abraham was 2,000 years ago to them. Now that's a long time ago. Think about that for a second, if you can kind of get your head around how long ago Abraham is from now, from us. Think about how long ago that is. Okay. Now when Abraham came through the land, Jericho was already 5,000 years old.
Wow.
That's old.
I didn't know that was possible.
I know. They have a tower there that's 9,000 years old. That Abraham would have seen. There's a tower in Jericho that Abraham would have seen, and it was already 5,000 years old. Now that is something. I just thought that was fascinating. Now when you think about ancient cities, not just places where people live, but you're getting to the point where people are deciding, we're going to live together, we're going to have a little society, let's build a city together. What do they have in common, generally speaking? What do you usually find in old cities, these ancient cities, I'm talking about how they're built?
Oh,
They're built for protection.
around a well.
Okay.
Because they need water.
Well,
But protection.
protection.
Yeah.
What form does that take?
Usually a castellated wall.
A wall. You have these walled cities.
Right.
Why do they build walls around them?
So that at night you can close it up so that the wild animals can't come in.
Okay.
And also so that basically if you are being attacked by anybody who wants your resources, you have a natural means of protection.
Okay, so walls are to keep people out or something. Walls are to keep something out. That's the whole point of the walls. Keep something away. All right. But you can't have a 100% wall. So what's there going to be somewhere?
Gates
A
and
gate.
doors.
Now, what is the gate for then?
Coming and going.
To let people in. But since you only built the wall to keep people out, what is the gate for?
Trade.
To keep people out too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. Because you're not going to say, oh, we want people. The gate is to so people can come in. Well, why have the wall? Yeah, people will come in. If the only reason you built the wall is to keep people out, the gate is also to keep people out. Okay, I'm trying to get you to think different. All right. Obviously, people need to be able to come and go, but it's otherwise you just have an arch, right? A gate. We think of a gate as a place to go in. But the only reason you have a gate is to keep people out. What's at the end of your driveway?
A road. Nothing.
What are we talking about? At the end of your driveway, right next to the street, is a gate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
And what do you have to do to open that gate?
Put in a code.
Put in a code. So the gate isn't to let you in. You could just get in. The gate is to keep you out. That's what gates are for. I want you to understand that. That's important. We're going to come to that later. And it's going to be really important that you understand. A gate is for keeping you out. Okay, we got that now. When you would build these gates, I couldn't find any good pictures for this, but there'll be big columns on either side of the gate that have rooms in them. Okay? And the rooms are so you can pack them full of soldiers, and you try and shut the gate, but in case anyone gets in, you got all these guys right there, and they're going to have to get through them. It's not like a one thin thing. It's a deep tunnel you got to go through before you're actually in the city. So guys can attack you if you make it through the actual door or whatever. Okay. Well, since you're not usually at war every day, these big rooms served a pretty nice function. Administration would take place in those rooms, so they're not wasted. Room inside a walled city is precious because you can't get bigger. So everything's got to be used. So in the gate complex, since you've got these rooms for the defenders, and you're not at war or being attacked, they use them. So that's why it says in different passages, go to the city gates and conduct this business. Because you're going to find officials there, so you can conduct business. you wouldn't go like we think of in a European castle. You want to have an audience with the king, so you go up to the king's castle into his throne room and have an audience. You would go up to the city gate and one of the officials and say, I need to speak with the king, and they'd go get him, and if you wanted to, he'd come down, and you'd do whatever deal you got, a discussion or whatever, in the city gates. So the city gates have this other thing. They're for keeping people out, and they also represent the authority of the city. Right? That's what the city gates broadly are all about. It's important that you know that. And you'll see it in a little while. So, the Israelites finally enter the land. And where they come, they've been wandering all over here in the east. And when it's time to come into the land, God has them come right opposite Jericho. There's Jericho. You see the river. They cross the river right across from Jericho. That's where he has them go. All right. Now, there's a tradition in the old days. When something unusual happened at a spot, you'd find some kind of long stone laying on the ground, and you'd stand it up. Because it's unusual. Stones don't stand up. So you'd stand it up, and then when people come along later and they see that, what's that stone doing standing up? Well, let me tell you. Something happened there. So it's a marker of something. And they call them standing stones. And sometimes they're really big. Because maybe you thought it was really important, or whatever, you know. But in any case, the thing is, you stand up a stone, and I think I have... Oh, here's another picture of the Jordan, and you can see that rift on a much bigger scale. There's a person standing up there. There's Jericho, nice and lush.
So that's a modern picture?
It's a modern picture. Yeah, not like in the 60s, I think. This is this is the Jericho Road. Now, where do we hear that? What story do we hear of the Jericho Road?
That's the Samaritan.
The Samaritan story. And I just think you can really see Yeshua's sense of humor. He starts telling this story, and he's like, all right, there's a man who's nearly dead on the Jericho Road, and along comes a priest, and he walks on the other side. He walks around on the other, and I always pictured, because I lived in the desert, I pictured this dirt road in the middle of, no, that's it. It's a sheer cliff on one side and a sheer cliff on the other.
Pretty much had to walk over.
He basically had to leap over the guy if he didn't want to touch him. So I thought, that you can see the sense of humor. He's telling this story, and he's telling this whole crowd is listening. He's like, yeah, on the Jericho Road, and this priest walked on the other side of the road, and everybody's like, oh yeah, on the other side of the road. How did the chicken get to the other side of the road? He stood in the middle. He's on both sides. Anyway, I just thought that was amusing. Here's some standing stones. This is actually out in the desert, an old temple to Hathor, an Egyptian goddess. And these are little. I don't know what went on there. But these are little versions, but I just wanted you to see an example where somebody stood up a stone. Naturally, it wouldn't be standing up, it would be laying down. Why am I telling you about the standing stones? When Israel went into the land, in Joshua we hear this. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, Yahweh spoke to Joshua and said, choose 12 men from the people, 1 man from each tribe, and give them this order. Here from the middle of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet were standing, take 12 stones, carry them with you, and set them up in the camp where you pass the night. And Joshua called the 12 men whom he had selected, 1 man from each tribe, and he told them this is what they should do. Take a stone, 1 on your shoulder, each one of you of 12, corresponding to the number of the tribes of Israel, and to make this a sign among you. And when in the future your children ask you, what do these stones mean? You will then tell them, the waters of the Jordan separated before the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, and when it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the river separated. These stones are an everlasting reminder of this to the Israelites. So there you go, some standing stones.
So they must have been pretty strong men to carry those stones on their shoulders. There isn't what you guys going to say.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of stones, or maybe several of them helped. Maybe one guy took it, but others helped. Like Moses held his hands up, but people helped. Maybe, I don't know.